Hello and welcome to Radio Waves. I'm your host, Kris Poliquin, and this is a production of Red Apples Media. We're broadcasting on WLBE 790 AM Real Country out of Leesburg, Florida. And if you're watching us on television, you're doing so on Lake Sumter TV, Comcast Channel 13, Bright House 498, and CenturyLink Prism Channel 83. So today we're going to be making waves with two guests from the Lake County Rowing Association. In the first segment, we'll be speaking with Vice President Rich Walter. Rich, thanks for coming on to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Anytime, because as I was doing research on the association, it's I think it's very cool, and it's a unique sport. So tell us a little bit about the Lake County Rowing Association, what you do, and, some things that might interest our audience.
Well, basically, we have three segments, well, maybe two, when you consider the adult rowing and then the junior rowing with the high school and the middle school.
Oh, okay.
Justin will touch more on the
Sure.
high school and middle school program. I'm mainly with the adult program. I took it up 3 years ago after I retired. Before that, I had a rowing machine, which we call an erg, and I had that for 20 years.
But never actually hit the water?
Never hit the water.
Really?
And when I retired, I said, there's my chance. And I found Lake County, which was half an hour from my house, and started rowing. And, once you get on the water, the ergs lose their appeal a little bit.
Right.
There's a lot more to it than the erg. When you're rowing on an erg, balance, timing. There are
balance, right?
Yes.
The difference between a stationary,
right.
piece of equipment on the ground versus being on the open water.
Exactly. And with the boats, you have a team, and you have to coordinate with the other rowers in the boat. If someone's oar is too high and yours is too low, you lean to one side, it slows the boat down. If you slide up too fast, you stop the progress of the boat, and that slows it down. So it was a little more involved than I thought. I thought I'd jump in the boat and just get going and start rowing.
Sure.
And but that's also keeps you coming back because you want to perfect it.
Right. It gives you something to get better at. So especially if you're interested in it, you always want to get better at the things you like to do.
Right. Then the other thing about it is it's low impact, and as we get older, the running takes a toll on your body, where the rowing gives you every bit as good a workout, but it doesn't beat up the joints in the back. And
right. Well, it's got to be hard on the back to a certain extent, though.
If you do it right, no. And
okay. Well, I think that goes without saying.
And the coaches are real good about making sure you do it right. And then there's, for instance, I own my own double, which is sculling boat. Now, scull rowing is you have one oar in each hand. And sweep rowing is you have one oar in two hands. So you can never be a single sweeper because you need someone to have another oar.
Well, you could if you wanted to go in circles, I would imagine.
You'd probably tip over, though, before you did that.
Oh, right.
So in this, my particular oar are flex blades, so they have more give, so that don't hurt my back. And
sure.
So as opposed to the stronger kids, they can have a stiffer shaft and get a lot more pull through that without hurting themselves. But,
right. So now, let me ask real quick. In the world of rowing, now, I'm no spring chicken, but how many types of boats are we looking at here? And if you can explain to the audience to maybe give them a picture of what we're talking. We're not talking about dinghies or kayaks, are we?
No. We have singles, doubles, and quads in the sculling, and then we have pairs, which is two people, then 4, and then the 8. The 8s is what everybody sees, going down the Charles River with 8 people in the boat, and but they're long and thin and lightweight. My boat weighs 38 pounds, and it carries 2 adult people in it. So we
38-pound boat.
Yeah.
I carry more than that in groceries when I go to Publix.
So
That's pretty remarkable,
Yeah.
considering you're on the water at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you spoke earlier about adult programs. When you say that, do you have to be a rower? I mean, what does the Lake County Rowing Association actually do? Do you just hold competitions? Do you have competitions? Or is it just more for fun? Or speaking to an adult program, what does that mean? Because if I'm interested, I may look into it.
Well, that's the if you still have that competitive edge where you want to compete, there are regattas just about every weekend.
Oh, really?
All over Florida. They're a day event, so
it's not an hour here.
You're right. So we have our own course at Lake County. We have 8 lanes, 2,000 meters, and then we have another course that's 1,000 meters. That's another 8 lanes. So we can hold major competitions. We held the Sunshine State Games last year at Lake Mineola.
Really?
Yep. As an adult, you can train to row in competitions, and your age comes into effect there. The older you get second handicaps.
Okay.
I get 32 second handicaps, so I can essentially row against a 30-year-old in the same race, and then
Wow. Well, that's because you've had a little bit of practice. What if I didn't have any practice and wanted to go at this?
that we also have a learn to row.
Oh, okay.
At our club, and it's 6 lessons with the coaches. They take you out for 2 hours each lesson, and then when you're done, you get the remainder of that month to be in the club and join the experienced adult rowers, and then you can decide whether you want to join.
Oh, okay. Okay. So you can kind of go out and, no pun intended, but test the waters.
Exactly.
See if this is something that you might be interested in. Because, I've always thought about doing different things. And to not have to commit to one thing before I know if I actually like it, it's always been an advantage to me. Because, most sports nowadays require a lot of money. Even child football, right? So even small sports, they cost money.
Right.
But with that said, I'm all about it if I'm interested in this. Do I have to provide my own? I want to keep calling them the boat. Can I call it? I can call them boats, or do I have to call them something? Okay.
No,
Do I have to provide my own boat, or do you have those at your facility as well?
we have them. And,
Okay.
Once you're accomplished at rowing, you can start with the sculling. And sculling, you can, with the sweep boats, you have a coxswain that shows you where you're going. And,
Okay.
and they kind of control the boat. They're the captain of the boat.
And that's the big, Harvard image of rowing, right?
Right.
Big teams
Yeah.
in unison. Okay.
Once you've been there for a while and you can learn to scull, then you can go out on your own with your single.
Oh, okay.
And so you can train whenever you want, and go in and get your workout in, and say the coach's practice is at 7:30. You can be out there at 6:00 and go out and do your row, and then join the coach's practice afterwards if you feel.
Okay.
You still have a little energy left, which I usually don't.
Look, like I said, I know it's different from kayaking. I've kayaked and it wore me out.
Mm-hmm.
I can only imagine the conditioning that's involved with actual, rowing, the sport of rowing, and not casual, I guess, like canoeing. But we're about to go to a break, but we still have a couple of minutes, and I'd like to talk to you specifically about an event I saw that's coming up. And let me make sure I get this absolutely right, but it's the Claremont Cardboard Classic.
Mm-hmm.
Cardboard.
Yes.
Like what you get from an Amazon box.
Exactly.
Okay. How does this work? Okay, every time I put cardboard in the water, it usually doesn't. I'm not going to row in it.
Well, when Paul McPherson came up with this idea of a fundraiser for the club, he said about cardboard boat race, and I had the same reaction you did. So I went on YouTube and and did a little research, and it's it's really amazing at what these people come up with. I mean, you could actually take a cardboard box and wrap it in duct tape and jump out in the water, and it'll float for as long as we could do the race.
Gotcha.
But people go in a lot deeper than that.
I saw some pictures. There's some pretty creative stuff out there.
And I've tried to do a little of it. I'm working on putting our own boat in the race, of course, and it does take a little time with the gluing and lamination and so forth, but you could probably do it, make a decent boat to doing this race in a week. So
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, how many people participate in this?
Well, this is our first year of trying this.
Okay.
But other places have done it with a lot of rowers, and I mean, a lot of boats entered, hundreds it looked like, because
Wow.
I've been researching it online. I said, had no idea this was out there. And so, we're doing this year, and then we're going to try to, make it a yearly thing, make it an annual event.
Okay.
So on August 4th, we're going to have the Cardboard Boat Classic, followed by a free concert afterwards by the music group Switch back to the 80s.
Okay.
And it's going to be a very, family event. And but you can look up online at, www.rowlcra.org/ccc for all. We'll have all the information on there: start times, price, everything we're going to be doing that day.
Okay. Well, Rich, that's about all the time we have for this part of the segment or this part of the show. I wanted to thank you very much for coming in and sharing this information.
Thanks for having me.
All right. So when we come back, we'll be speaking with Justin Knust, who is the coaching director for the Lake County Rowing Association. We'll be right back. Hi, and welcome back to Radio Waves. Again, I'm your host, Kris Poliquin, and this is a production of Red Apples Media. Today, we're talking about the Lake County Rowing Association. And in our first segment, we spoke with Rich Walter, who's the vice president of that association. And now I would like to welcome Justin Knust, who is the coaching director for Lake County Rowing. Thank you, Justin, for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. So there's so many programs, and Rich tried to touch base with it.
Sure.
But, limited time and so much information. Tell us a little bit about yourself and then some of these programs so our listeners have an idea of what's available for them.
Sure. So I've been out in Lake County for about 3 years now as the coaching director. When I showed up, they had just opened the facility and it was primed to grow. We had about 20 people on our adult team and only 11 people on our youth team. Now, there are programs in the state that have 200-300 high school athletes on them. So the first thing was, let's get our high school program larger. And they didn't offer middle school programming at all. So we've been recruiting through, just getting out in the community and getting into schools and telling the kids that this is an option. We're at about 40 high schoolers and 30 middle schoolers right now. So we've grown that 11 to 70. And
Wow.
we're just trying to get the word out to as many people as possible that rowing is a thing that anyone can do. Any kid. And, we have kids from local area public schools, high schools, the private schools. We got some people from Montverde. We have homeschool kids. Anybody is able to row for Lake County.
Okay, so say I'm a parent, which I am. What's the benefit to me and or my child if we were to put them into a program like this? I mean, I understand it's a sport.
Sure.
But, you've got the big ones out there, right? You
Right.
got football and basketball, and that's where, soccer nowadays, people are starting to kind of focus on the basics.
Sure.
Why rowing?
There's a bunch of different reasons. The first thing I would say is that, rowing is a sport that you can do your entire life. So at the Indoor World Championship, there is a 90 to 99 category, and like there's competition because there's multiple entries.
Is that age group? 90 to...
right. So 90-year-olds compete in this event. So it can truly be something that your kid could pick up at 12 and do the rest of their life, which most sports you end up sort of having to phase out of doing it competitively, at a certain age. And to a youth rower specifically, the number of kids that we're able to put and go on to row in college. The stat that we use the most is about 50% of high school rowers who are female end up getting scholarships to row in college, and it's about 20% for guys. That compares with
how much? 50%.
About half. Yeah, about half of our graduating seniors end up going. Actually, this year we had 4 graduating seniors, and all 4 of them are going to be rowing in college. 3 of them got scholarships to do so. So we're actually pulling that 50% average up a little bit out of Lake County. There's a lot of need for college rowers because of Title IX. And we actually bring the American universities bring a lot of them from overseas. So when you watch Yale row, half of those people could be from Europe. So
is
really
that right?
Good, really good American-born, rowers are hard to find and in demand at the university level.
Probably because it just doesn't have the exposures as some of these other sports.
Exactly. It's starting to pick up a lot in Florida. Most people wouldn't really know, but there's about 70 high school rowing teams in the state of Florida.
Is that right?
Yeah, there's about a dozen in the Central Florida, Orlando, Winter Park, Claremont, all that, like what you would call Central Florida. It's about a dozen just in that area alone.
Wow. So if you're looking at students, what programs do you offer specifically? Is it by grade? Is it all by age? Do you work with schools on their program, or is it just a complete off-site?
Sure, we're our own 501c3. So we recruit from the schools, and we have relationships with the schools. But you don't really row for South Lake High School. You would row for Lake County Rowing. Okay. So we offer a middle school program. So that's grades 6 to 8. We start them out. Like I said, we got about 30 middle schoolers going around right now. That is wildly
30,
popular.
that's a lot.
We hope to have that in the 50s or 60s by this time next year. A lot of middle schoolers, and they're we group them all together. The boys row with the girls, and they compete. They travel. They go to Orlando. They go down to Tampa to go row against other middle school teams because their middle school rowing is taken off.
My middle school didn't have no rowing.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
I think it's great.
And that's a super flexible program. They only practice 3 times a week, from like 4:30, 4:45 is their start time after school gets out, and they get out about 6:45. So, it blends really well with kids that do, band or something else like that. Our high school program, like I said, we got about, hopefully this coming year we'll be in the 50s for our high school program. And they practice 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday, when school is in. And they travel all over. Like last year we were up in Georgia. We go down to Sarasota. We compete on a regional level, and if we were to qualify, nationals can be. This year our national championship was in California. We didn't qualify. We're hopefully a year away from doing that. But so yeah, the youth team is very competitive and travels all over the Southeast.
That's pretty crazy. It really is.
Yeah.
How about retention? So do you find that kids or children that come in and start rowing, do you find that they just hook, line, and sinker, like, this is cool, I like it?
Yeah, if a kid makes it...
You have more people staying than you do coming, trying it out, and leaving.
Sure. If a kid makes it past week 3, that kid's probably going to graduate with us, Our middle school, so the big part where there might be a drop up is from middle school to high school, because you're going to high school. This year we had 9 8th graders, and 8 of them are going to be joining the high school team. So, that's a pretty good, if we only lose 1 out of every 9 as they jump up to high school. So
that's pretty good.
These kids find the sport, and they just fall in love with it, and it just becomes, seriously a part of their identity and who they are.
So you have, I guess you have clearly competitive teams.
Yes.
Are all students or people who get involved, do they have to be competitive at a certain time, or do you have more of a casual that still focuses on the sport itself?
Sure. So to like, the beauty about when we go to these races is there have been, just like there's a football JV team, we have a JV boat, we have a third varsity boat, a fourth varsity boat, a freshman boat, a novice boat for people who are brand new, and all of the other teams are competing in these events as well. So we try to make sure that we're putting a kid in a boat where they're going to be competitive, not where they're going to win automatically just for showing up, but we're putting them in a race in a category that is, they're going to be racing against people that are their ability, and they're not going to just get blown out.
Yeah, because again, I don't want to deter anybody from giving this a shot. Yeah. Because I keep calling it a sport, and I say that's accurate, correct?
Sure. Yes.
So it has benefits outside of just college scholarships, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
You're being active out there.
Yeah. I mean, these kids. I talk to a lot of parents, and so like I said, our high school team practices 3 to 6, and I tell most of them, like, most high schoolers really aren't that productive from 3 to 6 p.m. anyway. It's a lot of time on the phone, time playing video games. Yeah, right. They don't start their homework till 7:30, 8 o'clock, whether they were doing something or not. So let's use that 3-hour block, and they're doing something productive. They're learning this, teamwork skills, leadership skills, and on top of that, they're getting physically fit. We take kids who come in that may not be, I was one of them. I got cut from freshman football in the high school I was in Orlando, and then rode for 4 years and got recruited by Brown and Harvard. So like, I was not an athlete at the age of 14, but by the time I was 18, I was, one of the better rowers in the state.
Right. Oh, that's fantastic. And now you're doing this for other people.
Yeah, trying to give kids the same opportunities. These high schools are so big that they can't possibly offer athletic sports for every single kid. There's just kids that slip through the cracks,
Sure.
Rowing and Lake County Rowing is a great place for those kids to land, because we can, nobody is a great rower at the age of 11. You have to be such an all-star to make some of these high school teams.
Sure.
You knew you were going to make varsity basketball when you were in, 5th grade.
Very early on.
Like that. I mean, there are rowers who make the Olympics that don't start rowing until their 20s.
Is that right?
In college, yeah. Pick it up late in college. There's one woman who rowed down in Rio who started at 23, and she was 27.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So then let me ask you this. With all of these programs, where do you do this at? Rich spoke a little bit about your facility and 8 lanes, and pretend like I don't know what any of that is, because truthfully I don't. I'm thinking like swim lanes.
Yeah.
Is this can you describe the facility and the location so that people can maybe want to explore this for themselves?
Absolutely. We have a beautiful boathouse that the city of Claremont helped us out with. It's on the south side of Lake Mineola. Kind of down near where they do the fireworks in downtown Claremont. There's a triathlon beach down there that they're going to be opening up in, I think, a week or two. So we're right there by downtown Claremont. The lake is perfect. It's about 6 miles around, so it gives us a fair amount of water that all of these kids can be out there, and it's not like we're running into one another. So it's a big body of water. As Rich said, we've got a race course that we can pull in and out. And your analogy to swimming like lanes, that's kind of what it is. Obviously, a lot bigger. They're about a mile.
See, I am smarter than I thought.
They're about the course itself is about 1.25 miles long, and the lanes are a little bit wider. Yeah.
How fast can they say? I don't want to say competitive because I don't want to scare people off, but how fast will one of these boats move a mile and a half, or whatever the race length is?
So yeah, we race about 2,000 meters, and like our sort of goal time for our guys is right about like 7 minutes or so. Women is 8, so they're moving at a pretty good clip.
Yeah,
I coach from just a 14-foot John boat, like a little, and I've got a 15 horsepower motor on it, and like, you have to put some throttle behind it. You're not trolling motor. Like, you got to bring some throttle to it to keep up with these kids when they get cranking. So they move pretty fast.
That's fantastic. Because again, I've seen it in the Olympics.
Sure.
And I just never knew exactly how fast
Yeah.
they went. I guess I could have looked at the little timer on the
Right.
screen, but because it wasn't a sport that I was up until really recently even considered. So if someone was interested in maybe getting information or trying it themselves, where can they get that information?
Sure. Right now, we're actually running youth learn to row camps, and so it's just a week, $99 from noon to 2:30. We've had 70 kids come through the boathouse already. We've got 3 more weeks. It's just Monday through Friday, and I tell people that's the easiest way to get exposure because it's low commitment. You can try it for a week. Usually, at the end of that week, your kid's gonna know, yeah, this is something I want to try out. No, this is probably not for me. So that's the easiest way. Our big recruiting push coming into when school starts, August 25th, which is a Saturday, we do an open house at the boathouse from 9 to noon.
Okay.
And that's just, you want to come see what this is all about, take a 15-minute tour of our facility, and then we sort of get new people in there after Labor Day. And we actually let them try it for the month of September from Labor Day to the end. Just try it for 3 weeks and see
great.
if it's something that you want to do before we start talking about joining the team and dues and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, that's great. That's absolutely fantastic. And you may see me down there. Truthfully,
Come check it
really,
out.
I think it sounds like a blast.
Yeah, it's great.
And I could use a little more exercise nowadays.
There you go.
Well, Justin, I want to again thank you for coming onto the show. We're going to have to wrap this up real quick. One last time, if you wanted to get information, where can they get that info?
So we're on Facebook, Row LCRA, on all of the social media platforms. Just type in Row LCRA, or our website is www.rowlcra.org. And
Great.
my contact's all over there. Anyone can contact me if they're interested.
Awesome. Well, Justin, thank you again. I'm glad you made it out here and shared this information.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. And that concludes our show for today. This has been Radio Waves. I'm your host, Kris Poliquin. We'll see you next time.